So we got a new technique which looks promissory, but it seems quite some persons don't fully understand why and how it works. A few months ago Ron was talking of PPS, postulate per second, then TPS, thought per second. But what is a PPS indeed, or a TPS? So, we look at the definition given by Ron. The postulate per second is a measurement of itself and exists senior to any energy manifestation. It is capable of causing energy manifestations in both thought and mest, but is itself static in nature. A postulate per second is equal to PPS equals 1. So, we can say that a PPS is not an energy, but something senior to energy, and this PPS can break up the charge of any incident. Then he progressed in this new era of tech. We need to define some words to full understanding the tech we are going to develop in this video. What is a joule? 1 joule corresponds to the energy required to lift a 100 grams apple 1 meter above the Earth's surface. As the joule is a very small quantity of energy compared with that involved in everyday life, kilojoules are used instead. Then what is a watt? It is the unit of power. 1 watt is equivalent to 1 joule per second, which represents the power of a system in which 1 joule of energy is transferred uniformly over 1 second. And what is a volt? The volt is defined as the difference in electrical potential between 2 points on a conducting cable through which a current of 1 ampere flows and consumes 1 watt of electrical energy. What is an ampere? A current of 1 ampere corresponds to the transport of an electric charge of a certain intensity per second through a material. The intensity of the electric current is the number of electrons circulating in the circuit per unit of time. What is a newton? The newton is the unit for measuring force. 1 newton is the force that must be applied to a body weighing 1 kilogram for 1 second for it to go from rest to a speed of 1 meter per second. On Earth, 1 newton is equal to 0.101971621 kilogram. Definition of ohm. The ohm is an unit of resistance. The ohm measures the difficulty of passing an electric current. The more ohms a resistor has, the more difficult it is for an electric current to flow through it. And he wrote something to explain further the PPS. So, all this new tech really finds its basis in the uniform measurement of thought. That's all we have been working with here. That measurement has been stated in the past as being approximately 0.014 of a joule watt per second. And while that's true for the equipment it was measured on, in this case a theta meter, the phenomena being viewed as thought was something else altogether. I have wondered the last few years exactly what was causing thought to become fixed, and while I knew it had something to do with static, I could not pinpoint what it was. I now believe that static, and the gravitational constant of the physical universe, are one and the same. Rather, the gravitational constant is the physical manifestation of static and its effects. It is the fixed rate between 2 physical masses in the universe and between 2 mental masses in thought. This explains why we have been able to contact and reduce incidents in the mind etc., and not spontaneously combust in the process. Because even if we view something in the past that has so much force it would kill a man, only a small fixed amount of this can be experienced in pt per second, 0.014 joule, Newton. Now that is not to say an incident doesn't have more far-reaching effects mentally, spiritually, because we all know that they do, but the actual physical charge and its manifestations are very minute, when contacted in PT. So, I went into this research with the thought that we could reverse engineer this discovery and be able to handle any mass, case manifestation, etc. at a level lower, or higher, depending on how you look at it, than any of the troubles man has had in the running of such case. And before I get into actually running this stuff, I'll explain a bit more about the relationship between thought and gravity, and how it affects the individual and running of processes. The gravitational constant is the fixed amount of force that attracts 2 or more bodies of mass towards their centers, as the result of gravity. That constant is known to be 6.67 x 1011, which off the top of my head is 667 octillionths of a whole, and would be 667 million quadrillions, if it were a whole number and not a decimal. Now that is a very small number, but when it comes to very large masses like planets, this constant is capable of creating a lot of force. The best example would be the pull of gravity on an object that's on the surface of the Earth. It is calculated by using the F equals ma formula in physics, where acceleration is 9.8 meters per square second, the rate at which all objects are pulled towards the Earth's surface. Take a man that is 200 pounds. And the force that's holding him to the ground is 196 newtons per second. A weight of 431 pounds per second, if you were to convert that to just weight. In other words, gravity or its constant causes any mass to be pulled towards the Earth's surface at 9.8 newtons per second, for every kilogram of mass. This same concept applies to mental masses. We know by the emitter that if you fix the sensitivity and other settings correctly, that you can obtain uniform reads. These reads are ultimately dictated by the amount of voltage, ohms, and amps of energy that the emitter is designed to use. In our previous example, on the theta meter the read for each mental mass was 0.014 of a joule, watt, newton. But this is not caused so much by the size of the mass, but by amps to volts, which is really ohms or resistance. That resistance is primarily caused by the effects of gravity in an electromagnetic circuit. Which led me to thinking that there must be some correlation between static and gravity, but I had to prove it, at least mathematically. Now that is not hard to do, as we already had the value of 0.014, which is also the measurement of mental mass in ohms, sec. So, all that was needed was to adjust this value so that when I was divided by the right variable, it would produce something resembling 6.67 x 1011. That value is 0.015. If we had a meter with the correct volts and amps to produce a uniform full read of 0.015 per mass contacted, then we can see what's at work here is simply the gravitational constant. Because 1 watt, joule, newton per second, divided by 0.015, is 66.7, a multiple and harmonic of the gravitational constant. This is the influence of gravity upon each individual thought on the surface of the Earth, maybe even the entire universe. We still need to take into account here, that what we are seeing here, are the manifestations caused in thought, and in physical universe, by the postulates of a being. Meaning that for every postulate made by a being per second there is a corresponding physical universe value. There are also the effects a postulate would have on a postulate, separate from any MEST, but that is a higher harmonic of energy on the tone scale. That being said, I went on to devise a way that could handle both aspects of a case on the theory that gravity could be leveraged to do so, and that it would key out case etc. The basic premise being that once a mass reached harmonic of gravity, it would key out in relation to all other masses. Think of two large magnets, both of a different size. The larger magnet would either repel or attract the smaller one, depending on which polarities were at play, positive or negative. All as a result of the effects of gravity. Without it, there would be no reaction at all. Now think of a big switch, that when turned off, causes all gravity to stop flowing around these two magnets. They would no longer have the ability to repel or attract other masses. They would just float in space with no reaction at all. Here is what we commonly refer to as the key out when we are processing. It really is as a being says it is. All things, with the exception of space, are really just postulated particles in space. So, we are then able to postulate into being enough counter mass or postulates to bring a mass up to the level of the gravitational constant. At this point they are no longer the effect of gravity, therefore, the charge is cancelled out. This appears to apply to all multiples of 15, in pps's, and has held up under testing. Once the mass has been keyed out it can be further blown and erased by asking for the postulate, and then the cognition, that were made. If this does not blow the mass incident, then simply repeat the PPS postulate cognition cycle again. The reason this appears to happen is that when a being is subject to enough force to form a mental mass, they do it in increments of 15 PPS or thoughts per second. So, when we locate a mass, we can assess it for PPS and then mock up the remainder to key out the mass. Then, since there is no charge to content with, we directly ask what postulate was made during that time. We then ask for the cognition. At any point the mass may blow and then erase. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is at long last the discovery behind why charge is mechanically created in the first place. Never have we gone so basic with data such as this. Leading me to believe that not only is gravity outside of our universe, but it is also the only thing that is in common between them. Meaning that gravity may actually be static itself and is the thing that is compressing a being down to a point in a body. A theory that has produced a lot of practical data in the last few months. It may be able to lead us to the goal of widespread exteriorization of beings. That is the best explanation of the theory of PPS technology that I can give at the moment. So now we understand a bit better what is a PPS, isn't it? Now we are going to put a look in the DNAFP tech. DNAFP tech is double negative assessment frequency processing. For this tech there no HCOB, ESTB, just what he wrote in debriefs. The first clue about this tech was in debrief of the 15th of November 2023. This week I've made a lot of progress on the technology that I believe will constitute the equivalent of OT13. A therapy that is very similar in nature and function to Dianetics, but leverages the power of Scientology processing to achieve its results. All this can be accomplished with the application of PPS to any incident and mass using the note, mystery and tone scales as a guide. Since only one postulate exists per second unit of time, then the frequency of each level of the tone scale is equal to an exact number of PPS. So, tone 40 has a frequency of 40 PPS, while antagonism would be equal to 2.0 PPS. So really, there's a type of incident or mass that corresponds to any point on the KTM scale, no to mystery scale. Sex, for instance, would be any element of sex in an incident. Minus emotion would cover any of the range of emotions from 2.0 to 1.5, effort, and so on and so forth. The way one can easily run one of these masses or incidents out and blow it, is to imagine a flow that is equal in PPS to what one is viewing. Minus emotion is run out by holding a flow of a frequency of 2.0 PPS. Anything involving sex is run with a flow of 6.0 PPS. Grounding is also very vital with this procedure. It needs to be maintained at all times. The amazing thing is, I have done this latter version consistently with no issue. No arc break, no drop in tone, and no need of any other remedy or repair. It appears that a being could run it almost indefinitely. Then in 3-Deck 2023 debrief he finalizes this tech, using what he calls the double negative assessment. This kind of assessment is easy to use, since it is accurate even without any E-meter. So, it can be applied in solo or on someone else. Step 1 is to locate a mass, a facsimile, or by asking a question you find something on which we have charge. Step 2. Then we ask 6 times the question. In thoughts per second, how large is this mass? What you found in step 1. Why 6 times the question? 6 is in harmony for the gravitational constant. Step 3. Then we proceed with the double negative assessment. And for each of the answers given in step 2 we ask. It is not. Value found in step 2, thoughts per second. And you note if yes or no. When you have asked for the 6 values, you will find that there is only one right answer. Step 4. I'd like to indicate to you that this mass is the right answer found in step 3, thoughts per second in size. Step 5. Now get the idea of that frequency in TPS and run it against the mass. Do this until it dissipates. Step 6. When it looks if it has, ask, has that discharged? If yes, the procedure is finished for this mass. If not, ask to continue to run the TPS frequency against the mass. What is important to understand is that the TPS you found is something you must mock up. Now there is some data in physics where we know that pure energy has a frequency. Matter is condensed energy and no more frequency. You mock up the number of TPS with the right value, and as it is senior to energy you can get the frequency of these TPS. Once spotted, you run it against the mass you want to blow up. Another point, don't be shy with the number of TPS. You can find big values. Ron gives us example of answers of values in step 2, 10 TPS, 20 million TPS, 40 TPS, 60,000 TPS, 1 million TPS, 20 billion TPS. With some people we could find values like millions of billions, and more. Remember also this data about the auditing COM cycle. This is the auditing COM cycle that is always in use. One, is the PC ready to receive the command? Appearance, presence. 2. Auditor gives command, question to PC, cause, distance, effect. 3. PC looks to bank for answer, it's a maker line. 4. PC receives answer from bank. 5. PC gives answer to auditor, cause, distance, effect. 6. Auditor acknowledges PC. 7. Auditor sees that PC received attention. 8. New cycle beginning with 1. Notice that there is not a step added after 4. Some people try to find if the answer coming from the bank is right or not, but it is not written. Just accept the answer you got. And a last point. In the debrief of the 3rd of December, he wrote, "What I've found is that when it does blow, it is a whole chain of incidents." In the 15th of November he adds, "A therapy that is very similar in nature and function to Dianetics, but leverages the power of Scientology processing to achieve its results." So yes, when we handle a mass with this tech, you blow the charge of the incident but also the charge of a whole chain of incidents. And that's why he says it is similar to Dianetics when we were erasing whole chains when we found the basic of the chain. It is just faster with this new tech. So, you have the data, and how to apply the tech. So, it is in your hands to apply it. We wish you lot of wins with it.